Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today on applying to onboarding, creating Agile Candidate Experiences is easier than you think. I'm Stephanie Ostry, and I'm the marketing manager here at HR Strategies Consulting. Before we get into things, I just want to take care of a couple of very quick housekeeping items. So first, we will be sharing a copy of the slides that we go through today, as well as a link to the recording. So you don't need to worry about taking copious notes. We will be sharing that later this week with you. As well, if you do have any questions or anything that you'd like to ask, please feel free to add them to the chat, and we will try and address them as they come up. But we'll also leave time for questions at the very end, so you can save your questions up as well, however you'd like to do it. I'd like to first start by introducing my co-presenter, and he's actually the real star of the show, Dan Whitmarsh. So Dan is a solutions engineer here at HR Strategies Consulting. He has over 20 years of experience helping clients achieve positive business outcomes through employee engagement initiatives, talent management process reengineering, and adoption of HR technologies. So Dan is always full of interesting and insightful takes on all that's going on in the HR world. So I'm sure that we're all in for a treat with him being our key presenter today. So for today's session, our plan is to give you a brief introduction to HR Strategies Consulting in case you're unfamiliar with us. We're then going to take a look at the candidate journey and going through the various aspects of that. Also, the active-passive continuum. We'll also look at the 5 key elements of the candidate experience. And at the end of the session, we're going to take you through an exercise where you can assess your organization's candidate experience through an audit process. And then we will go to next steps. And as I indicated, we will address any remaining questions that may come up throughout the course of the presentation. So here at HR Strategies Consulting, we've been reimagining HR to get the most from an organization's HR investments for over 20 years. Since employees are the foundation of an organization, we specialize in the employee experience by uniting HR and technology with our goal to make work-life better for all. We have 2 lines of business, a human capital management practice and an IT practice, which we collectively engage to deliver holistic solutions that align with our clients' business strategies. So the HR Strategies Human Capital Management practice provides advice, insights, and expertise to address any people issues that organizations are facing today, while our IT practice focuses on how to identify, purchase, implement, integrate, and support technology solutions to achieve an organization's business goals. So I think that's enough about us for now, and let's get into the candidate experience.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction, Stephanie. And I think you underestimate your knowledge and expertise in this area. I can't imagine building these presentations without your input and your expertise. So hands to you.
You're
hats
too
off to
kind.
You. So let's talk about recruitment, because there's so much going on. There's so much at play. There's the pandemic. There's some people who can't hire fast enough. There's people who don't hire at all right now, and all mixes and layers in between. And we're going to just kind of outline a framework of all of this today. So really, we're looking at a lot of challenges where conversion rates, are at an all-time low. And we're seeing drop off at multiple levels in the apply process. We're going to see, as we get deeper into the presentation, the flow of candidates, where they come from, how they engage with your brand, your job, your company, and then ultimately how they get through the steps in your hiring process. So there are portions of the seeker journey we're going to look at today where the candidate doesn't even know who you and your companies are. And they're understanding that. We're going to, dispel some common myths there. But as they go through all of these steps, the drop-off rates are paramount. I mean, they're seeing conversion rates. Everybody talks about the conversion rates on applies into a job. But I mean, you think about the conversion rates if they see a job on Google for jobs and then they do or they don't go forward to the actual apply process on maybe a LinkedIn or a Monster or an Indeed. And then they might not go through the next steps into your actual homepage and your ATS. And then they might start into the ATS and go maybe to the first of 5 steps and fall off. So these conversion rates are really huge and they're hindering the application process and they're hindering getting top of funnel. And just out of curiosity, I see there's a growing number of people who have joined here. And how many of you are actually tracking conversion rates? I mean, that's the critical question we want you to ask. And if you're not monitoring and tracking this, you should be. It's a really valuable measure. And just as an FYI, we're not going to do a formal poll. Industry averages, and I monitor all the sources, it ranges anywhere from 5% to 15%, but it can change greatly depending on what you do. And that's what we're here for today, to show you how to change this number. 10% is the industry average if you're using an ATS, right? So we've got a lot to work with. That means 1 in 10 people who actually look at your job, evaluate the decision to apply, pull the trigger and move forward. Okay, what happens to the other 9 out of 10? And we're going to talk about that group today. The pandemic rates, of course, positively and negatively affecting this rate, depending on your industry. Healthcare people are in a crush. They can't hire fast enough. Retail associates are in a crush. They can't hire fast enough, but other businesses have certainly slowed down greatly. So it really depends where you are in that scope of business. Now, the other element we think about is that not everybody applies on a desktop device. In fact, growing evidence, we're tracking in North America, our friends at Monster reported not long ago that 65% of jobs in the US and Canada have an apply start from a mobile device. And unfortunately, the drop-off rate is not 90%. When it's on a mobile device, it's a staggering 365% if it takes more than 15 minutes. So people are falling off faster on mobile devices than on desktop. In most cases, that makes sense because the apply processes we're building for candidates aren't really truly suited for a mobile apply. They can search jobs mobilely, they can see jobs mobilely, they might be able to initiate a second step, but by the time it actually gets to submit these documents, do these things, answer these questions, people aren't equipped to do it on the fly. And we're going to dispel the common myth around how a candidate approaches your job in a few minutes as we talk about the different the continuum of active or passive candidates. So these factors have all led to us to discuss this journey we're on today. We want you to rethink the way that recruitment is happening. Conventionally, we think it's a very linear approach. We think, you as the company put your bait in the water and then a fish comes and bites on the other end right away and you make that connection and you've landed a great candidate. It is not like that anymore. Fishing used to be simple. And that's the way recruitment used to be, but it's not a linear approach now. We've segmented the marketplace so much with different paths, routes, journeys, places where people can engage with you, your brand, your jobs, experiences, that it's no longer that one-to-one linear path. Here's a screenshot, a quick photo I wanted to throw in of my son's tackle box. So it's no longer that simple little process anymore. You need bait, you need tools, you need a philosophy, you need a practice, you need solutions to make this happen, okay? So let's go on this journey even further. The other pieces that are compounding this are landscape, right? So the recruitment landscape has gotten interesting, convoluted, twisted, and broken. Your jobs are everywhere and you may not even know it. Companies are taking jobs from your site, scraping them, whether you want them to or not, putting them up on their site and promoting them, and then having people come in and create accounts on their site to see your job that they could see for free on your site. So there is cannibalization, there's hiring, there's broken job feeds, there's pardon the expression, but bastardization of how jobs are displayed, languages, questions, job descriptions, branding is lost. There's all kinds of crazy things happening. So it makes it really tough to get your job into the right spot. So I want you to think about, taking a job, right? The most recent job change you made perhaps is something we want to reflect on. And if you think about what's in that job that's circulated around the internet, we're probably going to, if we did a hands up when we were in person together, and hopefully that'll happen at some day in the near future, people say these are the common elements. We've got a job title, we've got a description, we've got requirements, we've got a location, and we've got sometimes salary, which is up here in Canada. I don't know if you hear the out and about or the A in my voice, but it's becoming a requirement that's stepping forward by the government to start putting salaries on jobs. Okay. Now, that's what we promote. That's what we push around the internet as the bait to get people to your jobs, right? So I wanted you to think about this differently. I want to play a little word association game. So think about your most recent, a big purchase. Taking a new job is a big decision in life, probably much like buying a new house or renting a new apartment, okay? So when you go out and you start looking for that house, you start shopping by square footage, lot size, does it have a garage? What's the bedroom, bathroom configuration like? What's the style and the location? Right? But when you actually make a decision on houses or you finalize it down to one or two places you're looking at, there are different variables at play. You talk about the security and the comfort you feel with that home, the utility of the space, its location, I guess that's in both, the how it's going to adopt and fit your family or your needs or however many people are moving with you, and then the neighborhood that it's in and what that atmosphere and the environment is like, right? Very different than the initial parameters you started searching on. So think about a car, right up there with buying a house or taking a new job. You look by engine size, color, mileage, the cost of the car, the ratings and the efficiencies and how the industry sees that car. But you ultimately buy based off its means of transportation. Does it suit your means? Is it safe? Does it have the right space and utility? Is it a good performance car and going to bring good value over time? And is it comfortable to your means and uses of a vehicle? Now, even one more association game. This one's probably the funnest one. Think about the last time you met a love interest, right? If you're looking, you might search by hair color, height, weight, age, shape, and personality variables. But when you choose a life partner, it's never for those things. It's always about the companionship, their level of care, the beauty. And I don't just mean physical. I mean, how beautiful they are as a person and an individual, the talent and skills that they bring to the relationship, their values and their family ties and commitments. You want them to all be in line with what yours are. So we've gone a long way. So thinking about this quick word association game, there is a purpose here. I'm not just walking you down a trail for fun. Come back to that job association revisited. On the left here, title, description, requirements, location, and sometimes salary. On the right, you actually make a decision to join a job by the work, the environment, the manager or management styles, the organization that you'll be joining. You want to make sure their values are in line with yours. And then the benefits that come with that, not just the health, dental, medical, but the well-being, the values, the the company picnic, those great things that really, help you be proud of the organization that you work for. So bottom line, making a decision to join a company isn't the linear trend it used to be. Before, there was no transparency. I, as a job seeker, knew nothing about the company I was going to interview with until I got to the interview stage, and vice versa. An interviewer knew nothing about me other than my resume at the moment. But now we have this vast network of system tools and pieces and online places to go and investigate each other. It's given us opportunity to be more critical of those job title, description, requirements, and salary, and focus on elements that help us choose the right company. The analogy I like to give is if I'm a Java developer and I live in San Francisco, every time I get my daily rundown from whichever source of all of my new Java jobs that just opened up in the last 24 hours in San Francisco, there are dozens, if not hundreds of them. I can do that for any one of those companies. My job as a seeker is to pick the company I like the most and that I think I would fit best with and that aligns with my values. right? So that's the important part, and that's really paramount to where we're going to discuss this today. Because the job description, as we said earlier in the analogy of fishing, is just the bait that attracts. Your brand is what enables you to find them. And there's a picture of myself, my son, and my late father on one of our fishing trips earlier in our life. But really, it's not your brand or us. It's the brand and EVP that enables you to convert them. It's not your recruitment skills. That's a small part of it. It's there for sure, but it's about what your company, your brand, and your value proposition stands for. Okay, so the bait gets them to the line. So we have to think about the candidate journey, because not everybody is the same type of candidate. They don't come in and hit one click in that linear fashion and instantly end up in your inbox, although there are some tools and tricks that can do that, but there's still a lot of recruiting to be done even after those kind of feeds have been automated and managed. So you think about this as a seeker experience. They make decisions, they gather data. You know, it's just like online shopping. You go around and you research all the products, you get knowledge about them before you take action. And the seeker journey is no different. They collect information, they validate what they know, and then they apply. So in the olden days, there used to be this linear thought that they'd see a job ad and somebody would apply right away. And that may have happened, but we've changed to the point now where they collect information and they walk away and they assess the brand. Sometimes they don't even walk away thinking, oh, that's a company I want. They might even just have saw it peripherally and ignored it. And what we're seeing is some really big changes. I'm going to talk in a short while about a study that chronicles how many touch points candidates have or require before they actually make a decision to engage with you. So this model of, you know, if you went to the CEO of your organization and said, how do you think seekers find us? They would say, oh, well, they Google our company. Then they go to a link that we make in size 0.5 font at the bottom of the page that says join us or careers or something, which is normal. If you're a little more progressive company, it might take some more prominence. And then they search for and apply for jobs. The reality is that's not true at all. They start with Google. This is what the actual applicant flow might look like. They look here on Google, they find jobs, they Google in a skill set. They don't Google a company. And then through the miracle that is social media, job boards, and aggregators, they can pick whichever channel they want to go through. They end up on the applicant tracking system job detail page. This is the landing page for that specific job that eventually fed and populated Google. But everybody's hijacked it in the middle here in the blue and brought them to your job page. And then they go to, hey, well, that's maybe not the job for me. What other jobs are available? They search around and then they see the careers page and then they go to your corporate web page. So this is the first time that the candidate might actually experience your brand. Up until here, all that they have seen are job description, title, location. And this is what they need to make the decision about working for you. So we have to do a better job at getting brand to be part of the job dissemination in the way it propagates through the seeker universe, okay? So remember that comment a few seconds ago? This is the study I was referencing. On average, it takes 18 sources for somebody between the time they research a company and apply to a role. So they need to bump up against your brand 18 times on average before somebody makes a decision to actually pull the trigger and to apply. You know, think about the last job change you had where you may have saw a company and thought, oh, I didn't know they needed project managers at Acme Fireworks Company or Acme Rocket Company. And then a couple of days later, you see another advertisement for them. And now maybe you might pick follow that one a step further and look at the company and start looking. And then you go to LinkedIn and you see if you know anybody who works there. And you go to Glassdoor and see some reviews. And then you read more about the job description because now you think, hey, this does make sense for me. And then you set up a keyword alert on their career site and you monitor it. And maybe you get fed a couple new job opportunities that are coming up. And then you think, I'm going to do it because I had a really rotten day at work today. I'm going to apply. So Then you get into the application and you realize, oh, I need 3 references. So now you've delayed it for another several few days while you get your references in line and you update the resume and the right cover letter for the position you're talking about. Then you want to brief your significant other at home and your kids and say, hey, you know, mom or dad is thinking about making a career change. You just extended this to a significant amount of time. It's not a linear approach, okay? And this is what happens. And when we ask candidates, what made you decide, or where did you get the resources you needed to make a decision about applying? You know, number one answer, 46% came from the company's career site, right? And we have to piggyback this off with the 4th most popular item, 25% said from a mobile career site or an app. So these really are, you know, 1st and 4th in the same contest, right? And this research comes to us from the 2020 North American Talent Board research report that's out there. So the candidate experience and where they choose to get information is predominantly from you, not from other sources. Now, all things equal, I've painted a story about a decisive, or I shouldn't say a decisive, what's the opposite? Indecisive candidate, or somebody who's overly considerate and thinking through all of their options is maybe a better way to explain it. Not all candidates are the same. So we need to understand what we call the active-passive continuum. You know, I hear this company's interesting, as opposed to I need a job now, which are very different types of mindsets for seekers. So let's go on that venture. I call this the active-passive continuum. LinkedIn has done a great graphic here. I've clipped it from their site 2018, and they break down roughly where they see the distribution of seekers. You know, 12% are actively looking, 40% are open to talk to 45, sorry, open to talking to a recruiter, and 15 are just not going to move. They're very content with where they are. On the other side of this, Job Target does a great research report where they're saying that 80% would look, but then they break it down into different segments. 74% are kind of free agents, 10% aren't going anywhere. So the numbers line up no matter where you look, but there is a normal, almost bell curve of where seekers go. So if you think about this, and I'm going to pull some rudimentary grade 10 math on us here, you know, we've got on the left-hand side, totally active seekers. That's the candidate who shows up at your doorstep every day with a pocket full of resumes and gives you a new one, gives you new, did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get it? And then on the other side of the continuum is somebody who's totally passive, who's probably not even looking. And, you know, if you wafted the best job offer ever in front of them, they might not even sniff on that, okay? At the other side, you can see here that we've got easy to convert and difficult to convert. So totally active candidates will typically go the distance in applying. They're not shy to spend an hour working through a difficult applicant tracking system. And if you map out the distribution of candidates, it's going to be a bell curve, which ends up being a linear function, right? So no surprise, totally passive candidates are more difficult to land. I think there's a pretty clear correlation there. And if we talk about 10% conversion ratios in the industry, this is the segment of the candidate universe we're playing with. So imagine this being a full sheet of 100% of the candidate universe. We're only playing in that 10% market on average right now. We need to change that. We need to increase conversion. So what increases conversion? There's lots of things, and we're going to get to the list of 5. But I'm going to talk about one of the most popular, or I shouldn't say popular, a widely replicated study that's been done in numerous places. My favorite by far is that a well-branded career site can increase conversion. It'll allow you to play 60% deeper into the passive candidate pool, okay? You can land a qualified candidate with less salary, which is a crazy thought, but it's not, they're not coming for salary. They're coming for work, right? Work is more important than salary. You can reduce new hire turnover. You can increase the quality of hire, and you can increase the ability to positively impact employee referrals, which is a very affordable and effective way to be recruiting new seekers. And you can increase new hire commitment by 28%. This was all from the Corporate Leadership Council in 2006. It's a research paper that gets replicated every couple months by some new vendor in the marketplace. But this was the landmark study that really painted the picture of why it's important to articulate your brand in the recruitment process, okay? So Think about that graph we had just a few minutes ago, 10%, you could play 60% deeper in the passive pool. You're really now getting value out of this, and you could be saving money by not offering such high salaries. It's not about the hiring bonus that comes with it. It's the quality of the work. And if you can accurately capitulate or articulate what your value proposition is to seekers, we will use this word often, EVP, employee value proposition. That's what you're offering to a seeker. You're going to win the game. Okay. So now another element of this is candidate reach. You need to be able to get your jobs to more than one spot because people are not always coming to you. The internet, as we commented earlier, done a great job at being able to take jobs from your site without you knowing, unfortunately, but you need to make your jobs available on social media. It's free. Do it. That's where seekers are getting one of those 18 touch points with your job and your brand before they make decisions. And job boards. They may not, a lot of companies pull source of reports, and don't get me started talking about source reporting because it is the most misunderstood and misused diagnostic in recruitment. It is not effective. There are better ways to do source reporting than just relying on which site brought the job to me. Because think about this, a seeker may have saw your job on Indeed, and then they may have seen it on Facebook, and then they saw somebody posted it on Instagram, and then they saw a billboard with your name on it, and then they actually Googled it and they got a job ad from Monster because it left a cookie on the weather network where they're tracking your preferences, and then all of these great things happen, and then you start to find out, and you've gone to their career site and you've looked at it, and then you've talked to somebody who worked there, and you make the decision, and then you sit down at Google and you type in the job name and the company, and it takes you to Indeed, and Indeed flips you right over to the career page, and you apply, and then the Indeed says, we brought this candidate here for you. That is not true. It was a long journey, and I didn't mean to pick on Indeed, but it could have been any of those providers, right? That's not true. That's not how the candidate found you or why they found you. You need to do a secondary question at some point in your recruitment process that evaluates what made them make the decision to completely apply into your system. Secondly, does each job have a unique URL? Because seekers, if I'm on a mobile phone and I see a job and I want to just share this over to a colleague that I just graduated with in my program, you need to be able to do that. It can't be a PDF or something that's buried deep down in your web page. It's got to be something super light and easy that's transferable and can grow legs of its own and hit the internet, right? Do you offer a referral program? So incent your happy employees and tell them to bring their friends who are likely happy people, right? Are you actively marketing to past applicants? So every ATS collects candidates. They're all sitting in there. 6 months from now, you're going to hire another project manager. Did you reach out to any of the silver medalists who you almost offered a job to 6 months ago? You should do that first, right? So you need to be doing all of these great things to reach. Now, the next segment we want to talk about here is the application process. This is where the candidate is actually starting into your job, okay? Is it easy? And I love this little cartoon from Non Sequitur. You think about the finalists, if any, and the hoops and travesties and tribulations we put candidates through on the way in to apply to a job is just outrageous. We ask for a laundry list of 600 things that we're going to need if we hire them, but we're only just wanting to get the resume right now. You need to start with that simple short list, and then over time, each step, have candidate engagement or seeker engagement by asking them for a few more things, because if they see themselves going through the steps, they get more excited. And Stephanie, there was a great stat we had on this about number of candidates that don't hear anything. I think it was really high number. I'm sure it was in the 40s or 50% of how many people never hear anything since the moment they get the thank you, we received your email. I don't have that stat on the top of my head.
I don't have it either, but I think it might have even been closer to 60%. But
Yeah.
What I was thinking as well is the further a candidate gets along in the process, the more invested they are as well. And so they are then willing to spend more time to give information than right up front when they haven't engaged at all with the company, right? And so I think that if you ask for a laundry list right at the get-go, you're going to lose a ton of people just for that reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. So the other part is there a passive apply process? I mean, so we have an ATS, we have 62 steps for them to complete the apply, but do we give them an option? Just say, hey, you're not sure? Just give us a resume, and we'll be in touch if we feel that you're a good fit. So you need to be able to give some type of talent network or passive apply process out there. Okay. Now, once they've gone through that step, so we're again way back to the beginning, we're talking about conversion ratios. You can see how people fall off at each of these sequential steps. Now they're into your system and you're making decisions about, yes or no, or we're going to move you forward to the next step is the selection. So does a seeker actually get to see their status? Do they get an email notification? Hey, congratulations, you've been moved forward from resume received to first status, and then again from X status to next status, right? And can they log in to see that, or do they actually get a communication from somebody giving them, hey, the thumbs up, you're moving forward in this process, right? Self-service, or you're sending it out? Do they get an email with updates about things that are happening, right? And can they actually come in and schedule their own interviews? How difficult are we going to be to engage with them and do interviews? Okay, so there's a lot of great things we can supply to seekers during that candidate experience. And one that's really coming to the forefront right now that I need to probably update and include in future presentations or talk tracks on this item is candidate experience surveys. So we partner with Qualtrics, which is owned by SAP, and they're actually embedding in seeker experience surveys at every step. So a seeker gets a little notice, and there's a QR code, and they open up their phone and they tap 1, 2, 3, and they rate whatever those steps and statuses were. And recruitment companies are being agile on the fly and adjusting their experiences based off of the feedback that's coming in. So we're not waiting till you've been hired and getting a new hire survey done. We're doing it on the fly with people who are in midstream or in flight, many of who will be rejected and many of who will be hired. So last part of this is hiring, all right? So this is the final step. You've made a decision. Now you've got to, negotiate with that seeker to bring them on board. So is there a way to make this easy? I mean, traditionally, people get a hiring letter, and then the conventional way was that you showed up on your start date and you didn't know where to go or who to talk to, and you stood awkwardly in the lobby 10 minutes before 9 and waited for somebody to acknowledge that you were there. That doesn't need to happen anymore. Care packages sent out, branded merchandise to people, pre-hire or pre-boarding exercises. Hey, and we can distribute all of this through new hire portals where a candidate actually starts to get all that documentation they need to do. They get checklists, they get videos, they get a welcome letter, they get, hey, on day 1, go here. And by the way, when you show up, there's going to be some meetings pre-populated into your calendar for you. So all of those things come together to make a really great candidate experience. They're prepped for day 1. They've been communicated with, they're automatically enrolled in new hire curriculum, they have meetings, they've been set up with mentors, peers, their laptop arrived on time. All of these are beautiful parts of things that you do in that pre-boarding to new hire phase that really make it an experience. So let's summarize this all up. We talked about the brand and how important it is to convert people. We talked about the reach. These are elements where you have to get your job out to the market to see people. Then we've talked about attraction. What compels somebody to actually move forward once they've seen your job in multiple spots? And what's attracted, what did they find attractive about your value proposition, right? And then the selection process. Did you make this a great experience? And if hiring, did you do it in such a way that it was top-notch, world-class, and gave everybody the onboarding tools that they wanted? These things come together to be a compelling candidate experience, which I'm sure all of us in the industry have heard this talk track in the recent years, okay? So, and that's is really the difference between a job versus a career. If you do these things and do them well, you're landing somebody who's joining the right organization, the right place, and the right time, and aligning with the values. That's a career. If you just put a job out there and wait for somebody to come through who is suitable, it's a job. And there's a big difference. Careers have increased passive reach, quality of hire, and increased conversion. They decrease new hire turnover and cost of recruitment. So there's lots of merit in doing this. So let's talk about this. We've given and come up with a really simple solution here that you can use as a scorecard to help you assess things. So this is a multi-use piece of Excel, very simple. It comes to you in a template form, save it, date it, because the practice isn't to see where you benchmark against other companies. The practice here is to see where you really are and then what you're going to take on, what you're going to improve to make a better candidate experience, and then remeasure yourself again. So you're going to do this multiple times, hopefully over the entire life of your time with your company until you retire. And we called it the brand, reach, apply, select, and hire. So we called it Brash. And I thought that's really nice. That comes together in a great way until I looked up the definition of the word brash. And then I thought, oh my gosh, it's heedless of consequences or audacious. Yeah, so we decided we better call it respectfully brash, because we do like that it is full of fresh, raw vitality. It's honest, right? So it's audacious. It's not done in haste. It's full of fresh vitality. It's not done lacking discernment. This is thoughtful and planned. So it's respectfully brash. This is what we're going with, okay? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna open up Excel. This is an Excel document, 3 tabs on this Excel document. I'll walk you through this, and everybody will get a copy of this when you're done. Human Resources Strategies Consulting, that's us. We're excited to be working with you. So here is the Brash assessment for your candidate experience. Takes 5 minutes or less, right? You can do this on gut check. You don't need to compile data and enter long detailed statistics. And what we want, when you're ready, you get started, you click the blue arrow. There are 15 questions, 3 about your brand, 3 about your reach, 3 about the apply process, 3 about your selection process, and 3 about your hiring process, right? So for instance, how well do your jobs highlight your employee value proposition? All of the questions are on the same rating index. The left, very poor, poor, okay, good, or very good. So I'm going to say we're good. How challenging is it how challenging is it for a potential employee to find out what it's really like to work at your company? Ooh, yeah, we're not so good at that. It's poor, okay? And you can answer all of these questions. I'm not going to read them all here. I'll keep the surprise for you when you get the deck, but they're very straightforward, very reasonable questions that you should be able to answer right off the top of your head without collecting any data. You know, and you can see as I'm going through this worksheet and answering this, when I'm done, I click on the little blue arrow and it's going to give me a scorecard for each of the sections. Oh yeah, we're not out of 5. I got a 4 out of 5 on that question, a 2 out of 5, and a 3 out of 5. We're a D minus. So we're 9 out of 15 possible points. But on branding, you know, we've got a pretty solid program running here, a B minus, 12 out of possible 15. And then on the right, there's an overall score of all 5 variables mixed together. So this is an interactive survey. You can come back and, you know, adjust your ratings, the scores, and save it, date it, do it again, and you can see this changes in real time depending upon your summaries. So what we ask of you is that when you take this assessment and you ask yourselves these questions critically, answer them with your heart and what you know about your organization. Save it, talk about it as a team inside your company, and ask yourselves, what can we do to change this experience? This deck gives you some suggestions and guidelines to go back to for each of those 5 sections. And from there, you can start looking at industry trends and research. Look at what it's like to actually apply to one of your own jobs and start taking notes. And this will shape your direction. So, Stephanie, should we jump back to the PowerPoint here?
Yeah, I think so. So I think we're at the time of the presentation where we're just about ready to wrap up. So I don't see any questions right now in the chat, but if you do have any questions, please go ahead and add them, or if you're more comfortable reaching out to us directly, we will be sharing our contact information. So if we, basically, we're here to help. So Dan, if you can advance a couple slides, let's just talk about next steps. So Basically, as I said earlier, we have deep HR subject matter expertise and extensive HR technology implementation and change management experience. So we understand HR and not just technology. So we're here to help you assess and improve your organization's candidate and your employee experience as well. So we are going to share this deck and also the audit that Dan just went through. So expect to receive an email from us with links to that. We're more than happy to review those results with you and talk about how you might be able to go about improving the candidate experience at your organization, or if you wanted to talk to us about more about how we may be able to help with improving your candidate experience as well. So our contact information is here. Reach out to us by email. We do have a couple of upcoming virtual events that I just wanted to tell you about. So we have an event for breathing new life into performance management. I think, again, if you're following any blogs, there's a lot of talk about how traditional performance management is dead, or not helpful. So we're going to talk about that. And we also have a webinar about diversity, equity, and inclusion coming up. So we will be talking about how you can both activate and advance your DEI strategy, since so many organizations are on different ends of the spectrum in terms of what they're doing today. And obviously, it's a very hot topic that needs to be addressed. So you can sign up for those webinars on our website, and there are hyperlinks within the document that you'll be getting a link to, so you can register directly. So this is your last call for questions. Let me just make sure that I haven't missed anything that hasn't been addressed. No, I think we're all good. So any departing words from you, Mr. Whitmarsh?
No, good. Thank you, Stephanie, for covering this. And thank you to all of you for giving us some of your time today. I hope you picked out at least one nugget of something in here that you can improve upon or do. We look forward to hearing from you. If you want a helping hand in going through your assessment, we'd be happy to revisit that with you and make some suggestions based off of what we see from your own brand and organization. So thank you, Stephanie, for your help. Thank you for the organizers for putting this event together, and thank all of you for attending. We look forward to sharing more information.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks a lot.